Okay, I call the meeting of the Devine Independent School District Board of Trustees to order at 6:33 p.m. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Let the record show that trustees Carrie James, Renee Frieda, Chris Davis, Adam Jones, and Nancy Keller are present. Would you stand with me and do the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you bow with me for prayer, please? Father, we've had so many things happen since the last time we met together to conduct the business of this school, and we pray that you will help us now as we go forward with some more decisions that we need to make. We pray for those who have lost loved ones within the last several months. We pray that you will be with them and help them feel your presence and your comfort. We pray especially that you will guide us in the decisions that we make tonight. We have some that we need to consider very seriously for the benefit of the kids. That's what we're here for. And so we pray that you'll help us make the right decisions, and that whatever we do will be in accordance with the will that you have for our school district. Forgive us now for the times that we fail you. Thank you for the wonderful weather that we're enjoying at this time. And as we get ready for Thanksgiving, we pray that you'll help us look around and realize that we have so many blessings that you give us every day that we need to be mindful of. We thank you for our family and our friends and our community, and that we can live in America. For we pray in thy name. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, first we have our school first rating hearing. Mr. Shannon.
Tonight is our annual first report. This will be on fiscal year 22-23. We just had completed the audit for fiscal year 24, so keep in mind that this is kind of 2 years back. This is an annual report that we have to make public every year. First stands for Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. There's 20 indicators, and we're going to go through each one rather quickly. The rating schedule for an A is 90 to 100. Devine ISD for 22-23 received the rating of an A, a superior. We got our 2 points back, and we made 100. And so we will go through that. Our indicators: number 1, did we complete our AFR and submit it to TEA with the due date coming up on November 27th? And yes. Indicator 2, is there an unmodified opinion on the audit? That means, is it good? And that was yes. We passed that one. Indicator 3, were we in compliance with all payment terms of all debt agreements at the end of the fiscal year? And yes, we passed that one. Did we make our timely payments to TRS, TWC, and IRS? And yes, we passed that one. Now we get into some of the ratios. The calculations are in there for your enjoyment. A lot of it has to do with our debt and what we have in savings and such. This one is our unrestricted net balance in the government activities column. In the statement of net position, is it greater than 0? Did we pass a balanced budget? Did we finish at the end of the year? But because of our fund balance, yes, we did. So we got all 10, that's a pass. Okay, now we get the indicators where we earn points. Was our average change in fund balance over 3 years less than 25% decrease, or did the current year's assigned and unassigned fund balances exceed 75 days of operational expenditures? And we have a very healthy fund balance which exceeds the 75 days, and so we got all 10 points on that one. Number 7 was the number of days of cash on hand and current investments in the general fund for the school district sufficient to cover operating expenditures. And yes, again, our healthy fund balance. We have 270 days, so we're well over the 90 days required. Was the measure of current assets to liabilities sufficient to cover short-term debt? And yes, on that one, got all 10 points. Indicator 9, does our general fund revenue equal or exceed expenditures? And yes, or did we have, again, greater than 60 days of cash on hand? And yes, that fund balance really helps out on a lot of these. Indicator number 10, did we average less than 10% variance when comparing budgeted revenue to actual revenues in the last 3 fiscal years? And so they'll take, like this week, Don will submit themes, and that's our budget, and then they compare it to our end of year. And so even though it's a fun guessing game, we're judged on it, and we did good on that. Well, this year it's not evaluated, actually. Because of COVID, because we're still feeling the effects of attendance, because the kiddos we still lack all of our kiddos back. They did not hold us to this one. Our ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets for the school district sufficient to support long-term solvency. So they want to know if we have money for the short term and for the long term. And yes, we got all 10 points on that one. Indicator 12 was the debt per $100 of assessed property value sufficient to support future debt repayments or bonds? And yes, got all 10 points on that one. This is the one where we got our 2 points back. Was our admin cost ratio equal to or less than the threshold ratio? We got those points back. We were just off by like a thousandth of a decimal. It had a lot to do with differences in both the numerator and the denominator. One was the assistant soup salary not being there anymore, and one was the PEAMS position could actually be in a data processing function. And so with those 2 changes, we got those 2 points back. Indicator 14, did we not have a 15% decline in the student-staff ratio over 3 years? This one was one we were kind of scared of too, but they scored it and got all 10 points, and we were good to go. As you can see, our enrollment is starting to go back up now. This one, indicator 15, was not evaluated. We actually just submitted these projections to TEA last week. We're supposed to guess for the next 2 years what our FTEs will be and all the indicators that go into our summary of finance. So with the help of Dr. Grangy, Ms. Schneider, and Ms. Hagdorn, we kind of go through them, see if we see any kind of those groups increasing or decreasing, and put those projections in and cross our fingers. On indicator 16, it did our PEAMS data result in less than 3% of expenditures by function, and this is kind of where what Don submits and what our auditors submit, and we're just off $3,500, and I know what it is, but it was still way less than what we needed, and got all 10 points on that one. Did we indicate we were free of any instances of material weaknesses from the auditors? And false is good, means we passed. 18, again, did the auditor indicate the AFR was free of any instances of material noncompliance in all of our grants, contracts, and laws related to local, state, or federal funds? Just false, which is good. Get all 10 points. 19, did we post all the required information on our website? Jerry does a great job of, hey, let's update that, let's update that. And so that was true on all 5 points. And indicator 20 is when we're doing the budget. And we used to talk about how the property values lagged, and now we talk about how that law changed and it doesn't lag, and we're in present values. And past. 21, did we receive an adjusted repayment schedule? When we get our FSP payments, our district gets them monthly because of our size. You can ask for an adjustment if you're short on cash and get some extra when you're short, and we did not have to do that because, again, of our fund balance. These are just some disclosures we have to fit in this report. This one is reimbursements. The superintendent on that other, it was for the board appreciation dinner. The restaurant did not accept Amex, and so he had to write that check, and then we reimbursed him. Board member 1 and 2, those were classes that they took online, which was in reimbursement for those. There was no compensation or fees received by the superintendent for professional consulting. There were no gifts received by executive officers or board members in fiscal year 2023. And then we also have to discuss any business transactions between the school district and any board members. The board member number 1, it was just a rental of equipment during an emergency situation. It was still a very cost-effective expense. And any questions?
Great job again.
Thank you.
Always good to see you. We haven't ever not passed, right?
I'm sorry?
We haven't ever not done well.
I can only go back 20 years, I think is the farthest, and I've always gotten an A.
That's my fault. Thank you, Shannon. Okay, next we have the citizen communication. Do we have anybody sign? No. Okay. The student health services report, annual report.
I'm sorry, it's okay.
Next.
Good evening. We're going to go over our annual progress report and talk about the last year that we've had. So I'm here on behalf of SHAC. So every ISD by law has to have a student health advisory council, which the majority of members must be parents who are not employed by the school district. SHAC is annually appointed by the local education agency and board of trustees. This is just a list of all the members that we have, and I handed those to y'all as well. That way you can see them. The highlighted members are 3 new parents that have filled out applications to join our SHAC committee. So we have Mrs. Page, Mrs. Martin, and Mrs. Silva. So those are 3 parents that we would like to seek approval from. That way we can add them onto our SHAC committee. We're pushing really hard this year to get more parents involved. It's a good thing that a lot of our employees are parents that have kids in the district, but then it gets a little harder whenever we need to make those numbers align with our ratios. So we're just too shy, but we're working on it. SHAC is a group of individuals representing segments of the community in the school district, which provides advice to the district on coordinated school health programming and its impact on student health and learning. These are 8 components that we work on in SHAC. We have health education, healthy and safe school environments, counseling, mental health services, parent community involvement, staff wellness promotion, health services, physical education, and nutrition services as well. These are all the different legislation requirements that we have. Parent needs to be a chair or a co-chair. We have 5 members present that have been appointed by the board. We meet 4 times a year at minimum. We typically do pretty good on just keeping with the form. We don't need a quick meeting. We have to deliver our annual report, which I am doing this evening, and we submit any and all recommendations regarding the district's health education to the office. All right, the top 3 goals that we keep every year is increasing the number of our children in our healthy fitness zones with our fitness grant. 2 years ago, we used to only do that at the end of the year. Last year, we started doing that at the beginning and the end of the year. That way, we can make sure we have good growth in our physical education classes and make sure our kids are progressing and not staying stagnant. We like to also increase healthy choices in the cafeteria. We've done food nutrition surveys at the high school. We've now extended that to the middle school as well. They're going to be doing that through their pride classes at the middle school since they don't have readily access to their phones like the high school kids do during lunchtime and things like that. Then for community participation for health and wellness, we do that through our health fair. Our health fair is combined with our Step the Backpack event that we have, so we'll have different health vendors from the community come in while kids come in to get their special supplies. All right, speaking of the health fair and backpack event, we did have that again this summer. We had over 70 families that came by, so it was another big hit. It was a success. So in our February meeting, we will start discussing plans for the next event in the summer, so we will keep on with that. We updated our wellness plan. The high school will now have December steps. That is through the Sunshine Committee for staff members. Everyone can pick a team of 4 and see who can get the most steps in. And it has already gotten pretty competitive, and we've only had team sign-ups. We haven't even started walking yet. So I think that would be good as well. We discussed, as usual, reasons students need to stay home to keep other staff and students in the district healthy, help them to get well. All of this information also is posted on our media pages, the district homepage, our campus pages, but we have also started a Google Classroom for the nursing and health department. So all of that is readily available on that as well, including any kind of forms parents may need for medication, release liability, things like that as well. The high school, we still have our staff wellness spots, so our vitamin-C, emergency, elderberry, teas, different things like that. The staff has seemed to really enjoy that, so we're keeping that there. We're keeping our October flu shot clinic, but we've got many immunizations other than the flu and pneumonia, tetanus, COVID boosters if they need them, shingles vaccines, kind of a one-stop shop. We partner with H-E-B. They already have our insurance through the school on file, so it makes it convenient for staff to come through. Narcan is available. There's 2 doses for every campus, including the Learning Center and DAP, as well as choking hazard bags. And our new partnership that I'm excited about is August Heart. That is the second page that I gave out to the flyer. August Heart does free cardiac evaluations for teenagers 13 to 18 as long as they have parent consent. They're pretty popular in the college communities, but they're willing to come out to us and host an event here. It's free of charge. There's a lot of different cardiac abnormalities that they'll screen for. If anything is detected or noted, they can follow up with that with an echocardiogram here on site, and then they will have a cardiologist that can speak with them. Any kind of follow-up care that they may need, they'll get that set up for them, get them to the care that they need.
So there's a cost associated with
No,
this?
it is free of charge. All of our minutes and agendas are on our website. All of our meetings are also recorded as well. On the health services side, one update I have, I used to be the only RN in the district. I'm excited to announce we actually have 2 RNs now. So we have a RN at the elementary, and as well as myself, and then we have an LVN at the intermediate and the middle school. So we have a registered nurse at the primary and secondary level for the district. So questions? Thank you, Sam.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, now we go into administrative reports. Thank you. Oops.
All right, for superintendent's report, priority number 1, increase student success and continue a tradition of student achievement. November the 11th, the instructional specialist and I attended the leadership convocation focusing on TEAC's resource and the LASSO Strong Foundations grant that will incorporate high-quality instructional materials through TEA. We're also conducting a study. We have a meeting with Region 20 on Thursday to determine how this affects the district. One of the things that the grant is supposed to do is to help cover expenses with some of the curriculum opportunities that we have, but even with the options that TEA is giving us, we're hearing that it's very expensive. It's hard for districts to be able to cover that. All our current vacancies are posted on our website and all of our statewide digital platforms. An update to our district vulnerability assessment. We've completed the district vulnerability assessment as of Wednesday, November 13th, and we are awaiting the final report. I have some more information to give the board once we get into closed session. Global Defense Solutions finished our campus maps. Those are laid out with a grid. We have some examples at central office, and we have them posted on the walls at every campus. So if you're ever around and you want to see how those look, be sure to ask. We hope to have our candidate confirmed tonight for the custodial and maintenance vacancies. District operations are continuing to run smoothly. It's just going to be nice to get somebody in there. I'm sure Jerry will be happy to get that out of our office. We continue to implement data-driven decisions based on our interim assessments. Those are currently happening as well. Our STAIR project update, we initiated a response on November the 5th to counter the offer issued by the bonding company. I did see an email today back from the bonding company, which basically just repeated their first offer, so I don't know that he even read the information that was given to them, but through our contractor conversations and Casey conversations every week, one of the things that we're hoping to get accomplished through this whole process is just for them to return things to the way they were before they started working on that project. And then that gives us a fresh slate, because based on the work that they have done now, no architect or engineer is going to want to try to come in and add to what they've already created, because then they're liable for, it's like building a house on a slab that somebody else has created. Our current bond project recap. Sorry, I asked me.
So they have to try to bring it back to where it was before? Why don't they just pay us back the money?
That could be either one of those. Either that, or they give us the amount of money to put it back the way it was. If they don't hurry up and we start construction and demolition, then they're going to have no other option but to give us money for it. I think the advice that we're getting, we trust them enough to just tear it down. That they will be okay with it, because they don't have to create the ground. It's going to be a place where we would create a slab on top of that. Current bond project recap. Our things that we have to address, we are looking at, so we had some proposals from the contractor. We had Casey look over them, and the reply to the contractor's proposals were, we're going to revisit the liquidated damages for subcontractors. We're going at, currently, it looks like an agreeable amount would be set on $125 a day. And regarding the 207 sheets of plans, several of the aspects needed review. There's some storm drain profiles that we want to look at. One of the pipes is going to have to run under the foundation of the elementary. It's not as common as we would like it to be, but the current storm drain in the place that it's located now at the elementary, where the new building is going to be placed, there's no other place to put it. So they said it can be done successfully. You just have to make sure that everybody's on board and gets this correct. High school entry paving way, we're going to explore options of retaining most of the existing paving to reduce costs, potentially demolishing only the northwest portion of the existing drive. We're also needing to verify the existing geotech report and whether or not that was received. I found out yesterday, this morning we got an email that that was approved. HVAC, we have to determine whether or not some components of software were going to be used, or whether the certain kind of, they call it like a pack unit or a cassette unit, if we're going to use those, or another variation that the engineers may recommend for us. Lastly, the expectations and scope for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, that's FFE, are going to be defined so that we assure alignment with all of the project goals. have to do one today.
All right. Okay, then we'll move on to our other reports for Don Schneider for the Director of HR Info Management. Nothing. Director of Special Education, any questions for Ms. Hackman? Okay. And then our business reports for Shannon. Any questions on that? And our principals reports. The DAP had a very interesting report. I hope y'all read it. It was interesting to see the makeup of the kids that's out there. Now our director's reports for finances, acquisition, travel, and what have you. Okay, we move on to the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the board meeting, to approve our CIPA policy and CQ local, that's about your technology resources. And then the Student Health Advisory Committee, and the original report that we had did not have those 3 parents. So we're adding those 3 parents for the approval. And then we had donations from the Devine Education Foundation for our AP exam grants. Could I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
And a second by Chris. Okay, Renee moves to approve the consent agenda and seconded by Chris. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Passes 5-0. The first action item that we have is to consider and take possible action to approve a resolution regarding your employee pay during the closure of school for an employee funeral.
So very similar to a weather-related incident, the board delegates superintendent the authority to approve variations from the board adopted calendar that we have every year. And as it becomes necessary, we're able to close schools for reasons of public health and safety, as well as the general best interests of the community. And so if the board chooses to pay employees during these emergency closures for which the work days are not scheduled to be made up at a later date, then the authorization shall be a resolution from the board. So our consideration is due to the unexpected death of an employee. I made the decision that we close schools on Friday, November the 1st, starting at 12:30, based on the survey of all campuses and whether or not we were going to have an adequate amount of employees to supervise and keep the kids in general well-being. We made the decision that there wasn't a plan that would be able to come together that we'd be able to cover all the campuses. So the recommendation and the budget consideration that I would make is that we adopt a resolution regarding employee pay, that they don't have to make up those hours at this time.
Anybody understand or have any questions for him? Okay, then could I have a motion on that, please?
Move to approve the school closure and pay resolution as presented.
Second. Second by Carrie. Okay, thank you. A motion by Chris and second by Carrie to approve the school closure resolution as presented. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Consider and take possible action regarding allowing homeschool students to participate in UIL athletics, I'll say it in a minute, and academics.
So during the 87th legislative session, House Bill 547 was introduced to allow homeschool students to participate based on the decision of a local school board. The school board has local control over how the program would be run and in which activities and homeschool participation could be involved. In the 88th legislature, HB 3708 was passed and entitled school districts to $1,500 per student per activity in which they participate. So the administrative consideration that we have is if the board agrees to allow homeschool participation, students would not be eligible to participate in varsity sports for this school year because we have to turn in that information to UIL before we have the ability to do so. We reached out as we've saw before, we had a list of all the school districts in the state that participated in this, and we were lucky enough to find two of the districts that I have friends that I've known for a long time, one is Salado and one is Thrall. And I contacted those superintendents, reached out to Hutto, couldn't get a hold of them, but Salado was extremely helpful in talking with them and Thrall. They said that in making this decision, they have not run across anything that makes them regret including homeschool kiddos in any of the UIL activities. In fact, Salado gave us copies of their guidelines. He said most of the work that goes into this goes onto the parents anyway, when it comes to having to qualify and meet the requirements and keep up. Coach Schmidt is not here right now, but he's acting athletic director. They said the other portion will come into play for the athletic director. But nothing that I have found makes me feel like this would not be something that I would recommend to the board to consider and approve.
And our UIL academic starts at what grade? Third or second?
Second.
Second. Does anybody have any questions? We had a lot of information to read, I think.
They did say, because this could be a question that the sponsors of each one of those activities come up with, that they don't, the two districts that I talked to, they don't take the money that's issued and put it to the sport. It goes into the general fund to be used to pay for facilities and things of that nature, but it could be organized however the board wanted us to do that. But they said everybody had nothing but good experiences to talk about. One of the schools was a state cross-country qualifier. Two of the kiddos were on the team, and they said that it's not, some of the questions that you get is, if Carrie's coming into our district as a homeschool kiddo and you guys are both on a team, does she take your spot away? And they're like, well, but if she was coming to school here anyway, you probably would have taken your spot. So they said they've never run into that.
You'll probably notice too that if somebody comes in and they've been part of a public school and then they homeschool, they cannot join the sports that year. They have to be out of regular school a year.
That was
So somebody just couldn't, let's say a golfer just couldn't come in and say, we want to play on your team, so they pull out of school and then try to just be on the golf team.
that was a major concern that even coach friends of mine not at this school brought up when I was asking them about it. They're like, well, then all your football team is going to quit and go homeschool and not play. And so I asked Salado and Thrall about that, and they said, how many parents do you know that want their kid at home all day that's not going to be able to provide a homeschool environment that's creative and helpful to that family? So if kiddos are in school now, they're not going to leave you for this, is what they found. Thrall is a little smaller, they're about 1,000 kids, but obviously we know Salado is in our same classification, almost like a sister school, if you had to put us into them.
So, but if they are in school this year and they homeschool next year, would they be eligible?
It's only in that calendar school year. If a kiddo decided to leave us and go homeschool now, the rest of 24-25, they're not eligible to participate with us at UIL. Right, anything.
But they could the following school year.
25-26.
But they could. What was the rule about coming to varsity? You have to.
There's no rule except for I have to tell UIL that we're going to have varsity athletes prior to the start of the school year.
By August 1st, and so that's passed.
And we make this decision, it's a one-year decision, like we have to make it again?
We can make it whatever we want to make it. We could say, I don't know, we didn't write that into the recommendation, but you could change it and say, I recommend that we approve whatever it is, under the guidelines of no varsity participation for the rest of this school year, and then we can adopt it in June or July.
Or we could approve it for the
Next
last half
year.
of this year and another year and say we'll revisit it after a full year. we could do it anyway.
Right, because even if we don't put a time limit on it, if something happened that we weren't considering, we could just put it back on the
Yeah.
agenda and revisit it anyway.
Yeah, it's a local decision, so I think pretty much anything.
Yeah, so we don't have to put a time limit on it now, we can just leave it open-ended.
Leave it open.
You know, if something's up, we can change it later.
But we can say to revisit it prior to each school year.
Well, what I think they're saying is, you could say that, but you don't have to say that, because if we just said we're approving it, then all we'd have to do in a meeting is say, ask it to be put on the agenda so that it can be revisited because we've learned new information. Or-
Right. The one thing I would ask is, and I know they're not homeschoolers, but after reading the report from the Devine Learning Center, there are some students that are within eligibility. So I'd like this courtesy extended to them since they are in our district, if they meet all the qualifications like the homeschoolers, since
I think it makes it a lot easier to do that, for sure. And then it's being set up the way we want, for sure.
So do we have to amend the motion to be able to do what Carrie just described?
I don't think so.
Or is that just process or practice?
I think that.
I was gonna say they're part of our school.
Yeah.
Right.
Seems like they're part of
What
the school
happens a
district.
lot of times
but they haven't been allowed to in the
is
past,
if they are aged out.
if they're in the
Yeah.
learning center.
Yeah, it might be that
Yeah.
they're aged out.
Yeah, that's, but now that we do have some
That are not?
that are not aged out.
Do we have a number of how many homeschoolers are in our district? That
We
interesting.
didn't hear that.
And they have to live in our district though.
Okay.
Yes, they have to
They
live
have
in
to
the
live in our
district.
district too.
And if they transfer in or just come in, they still have to work it out.
So how would that work? You don't take, I mean, you can't do like homeschool transfers, right? Like
Mhm.
somebody from Hondo ISD can just homeschool there.
That is like the first line of UIL's eligibility. It
They
says
gotta
they
be
must be a
involved.
resident of the district in which they're participating,
Okay.
for sure. I know that. It's like the first line of the paragraph.
Yeah, it's in here.
So I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd move to allow the homeschool students to participate in UIL athletics and academics as presented.
Second.
They have a motion by Renee and a second by Chris to allow homeschool students to participate in UIL athletics and academics. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, passes 5-0.
Could add that it may take us a little bit of time to get the testing part figured out. That part is something I forgot to ask the two school districts about. If the families go out to a testing center, like if we were gonna get our certification to be a principal, or Evan was gonna go get his history certification, you have to go to a testing center. I don't know if that's how they do it, or we have to figure out a way to give that test here. Because it's Iowa, IBTS, and then there's about 4 different avenues also proven, statewide accepted to prove grade level proficiency.
To show what their grade level proficiency is. If they're
So that may
saying
take
that
us
they're
just a little bit to
sixth
figure
grader.
out.
Ninth grader.
Although we have, Salato's a big proponent of it, and it seems to be working well in their district, so they've already said any questions that we have.
So would we possibly have this ready, put in action, so to speak, or start accepting people by first of the year?
Oh, for sure. I would say that we're still gonna be able to get, if I remember correctly, right now we would only have kiddos that wanna play middle school basketball. For sure. And middle school basketball, maybe we got 8 games left, something like that. That may not be. If anything at all, I bet the slowest part is gonna be test scores coming back from whoever can administer the test.
Well, we'll get that worked out so that we can get them into the program.
Good deal. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, next, consider and take possible action regarding the 4-day school week.
All right, so starting back in November, DEIC approved a motion to begin research into a 4-day program, 4-day work week for kiddos. Our administrative considerations were alleviating burnout, promoting a work-life balance, increase retention in highly attracting highly qualified talent. Our improved mental health and reduced absenteeism were things that we looked at. Enhanced professional development opportunities, boosting morale. In the beginning, student performance, student attendance, and student success were looked at. We were unable to determine whether or not that had a positive growth cycle or negative growth cycle. In the end, Lavernia and Bandera would be the two districts that we talked to the most. And obviously, Mr. Eads was a big part of this. He's here to answer any questions that you may have on some things. But what we came down to was, in the end, it's a focus of attracting highly qualified talent and retaining the teachers that we have. That in itself will have a positive impact on our students. So based on all of the information and the time that we had, as for me to make a recommendation, my recommendation is to approve the 4-day work week, and then for you all to ask us to bring a 25-26 proposed academic calendar. There's 5 different versions that we could have. Some of the debate is whether you have off on Monday or Friday, but that's not really for this discussion right now. Unless you want to talk about it. I didn't mean to say that only because you were asking me about it. That's not why I said that, I promise.
So are you saying you feel like this is in the best interest of the students to go to a 4-day?
Based on the information that we have from the people involved, the teachers and everyone else, and talking to other school districts, they're saying that if you have opportunities to attract highly qualified staff and retain the teachers that we have, that in the end, that is going to make a difference for our students. That's what's going to increase student success.
What kind of information have we received about the little young kids going to longer days and, trying to, they only take in so much information during the day anyway, and part of my questions have been about the smaller grades and how that affects them.
Definitely longer. Do you remember any reports that we got specifically about elementary kiddos?
We came down with kindergarten still is not required, right? Kindergarten is not required to do the full minutes as everyone else.
That's correct.
So we can look into kindergarten not going the full amount, but for 1st through 5th, there's not much that has been done in research on that. That's still kind of up in the area of different schools doing different things. So, what does science say? Bring naps back, or more athletic breaks, like 3 athletic breaks throughout the day, or you'd have to look at what each campus leader and their staff wants to do.
When we were talking, I have not directly asked those 2 superintendents how they felt that grade level has adjusted or not adjusted.
Well, if the kinder is on a different time, then you almost have to run buses at second, would you?
That would be a transportation
Yeah. How would you have one group
puzzle piece for sure.
being finished early?
Only right
It would
now that-
concern me if the solution to the kids having a longer day was things like more athletics, or napped periods, because then you're losing additional instruction time. Because to me, it's not, my concern centers not only around the length of the day, but everybody that I've talked to that talks about their education in early childhood learning is about consistency and routine. And when you're teaching those fundamentals to kids and then they have a 3-day break instead of a 2-day break, what kind of loss do we have for those kids as far as that consistency and routine?
What other questions? Anybody else has questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Does anybody consider what's going to do to the parents having fourth day school week?
That has been part of my, several of us on the board is what, if you have two working parents, what they were going to do. And we did check with other districts, and they told us that they had programs in place, and right at first they had people that took advantage of it, and then it phased down to hardly anybody. Now, we're not the same districts, but
My primary concern is the single mothers.
Yeah. I think that we share your concern. As Ms. Pepper said, it looks like in other districts over time that works itself out, but I was sharing with Ms. Pepper today that I grew up in a low-income family with 5 kids, and it would have been very problematic for my parents had there not been school 5 days a week, and I'm raising my kids not as in a low-income family, and it would be very problematic for me to when my child was younger to determine how would we have childcare. I would probably make a decision to put my kid in a different school district because I fear that first I wouldn't want them home not being challenged, so I would look for some kind of program that I could put them into that they could continue to be challenged. But I share your concern. I think it's difficult, Todd, because I went back to what our board goals were, and I can see the pluses and minuses to whether this works towards our board goals that were pre-established. Because the most important thing, and the thing that you guys give us training on, is that when we become a school board member, that we are the advocates for the kids, not the parents, not the teachers. It's every decision we make has to be in the best interest of kids. And while I can see that attracting and retaining highly qualified teachers absolutely benefits kids, at the core of it, I don't know that this is not an experiment that we don't yet know the impact it would have for kids. And that's board priority 1. Board priority 2 is attract and retain highly qualified staff, and obviously this absolutely does that. My experience with my own job has been that when we had a double the vacancy rate that we've ever had in the history of San Antonio, we said, let's go to remote work. We allowed a lot of employees just to go home. We went to flexible scheduling. We went to 4-day work weeks for everybody that we could. And it did not have it had a short-term impact, but not a long-term impact, because employees is like, if we just get this. But then ultimately, it was, okay, can we have a raise? Can we do these things? And many of them decided that it worked best for their families to come back to work.
anybody else have thoughts? Are we ready to make a decision tonight? Do we want to make a decision with these that are on the board at this time?
I would rather have the full board here personally, but
Yeah, I kind of like having a full board.
Would you like to table even for a call meeting?
I would
To
like to,
decide.
because I know we need to know pretty soon for our
Especially for Shannon.
food services.
Yes, December 5th.
So,
I still just have questions. I just keep on going back to, what Renee said was spot on. But also on this one form that we got, allow for sufficient time for intense planning. And it says 1 year is not enough. And I don't know why that keeps sticking with me. I know we've been talking about this, but it still hasn't been here. And there's still questions. Elementary kids.
And then you had asked me about that earlier.
Yeah, it just.
Other than the elementary kiddos, which I can get input from about
And
5 or 6 by the end of the week, but
Special needs.
our part, I feel like the part that we've done with DESC, we've almost like planned until we can't plan anymore. That's like almost planned
I
out.
think that was gives us a
It's
lot of
almost planned out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to
And I agree with
work out
Renee, but
anymore.
when we have positions that we can't fill, that people are going to the districts around us for 4 days, and our pay is right up there with them. And so if we can go to a 4-day and fill some of these spots that we haven't been able to fill, that's a huge benefit for our kids. Heck, some of those positions are our core subjects that we can't fill. And I know we've lost a couple to the 4-day districts, so if it's going to make us competitive and be able to fill those, I agree with this couple out here, and I agree with you. But again, it's the whole of the school. and the whole of the kids. That's what we have to look for, not just certain groups and subgroups within it. We have to look at the whole for everybody. And if we can fill those positions, that's going to affect our school as a whole, our campus as a whole.
I hear you.
I will get a good swath of information from K through 5.
So I have a question for you. So we
Sure.
have to make a decision before December 5th. Do the individuals who are here know how they would vote? Because we would know whether it would change, or do you feel like you need additional information to determine how you would vote? Because I'm all for coming back for a called meeting unless that we're only missing 2, and whether those 2 were here and voted either way, it would have no impact.
One person had already said he was undecided.
Mhm.
The other person said he pretty much felt like we need to go along with the superintendent's recommendation because it would be up to the superintendents and the administration to make it work. You know,
I agree with superintendent. That matters.
Could we take a vote? Can we make a motion?
we can.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we move forward next year with a 5-day school calendar.
5 day or 4 day?
5-day.
I need a second on that.
If it fails for a lack of second.
There's no second.
I'm still on the fence.
So that fails for
I would like to find out or hear what you have to say, what you researched the K through 5. I'm sorry. I'd like to find out, once he researches with the districts about the K through 5 and how that affects, and if we have a plan in place for students who need someplace, if we go to the 4-day week on the 5th day.
I've told you this before, but I'm going to tell you again publicly. I still don't think that we did our due diligence with the people who I think are the most negatively impacted. You can have campus committees, and if the demographics of your campus committees are not the people who are most at risk, then the feedback that you're getting isn't as valid. I form committees all the time, and the people who are interested, who raise their hand, who come forward, usually are not. You don't always necessarily get. It's hardest to hear from the voices who are the most negatively impacted. And I don't know that. I don't feel like I've seen a demonstration from the district to really reach out to those individuals who maybe are lower income, single moms. Don't doubt that we have had single moms, but those people who maybe don't have that network of support within our district. Now, that's my fear, is the unknown. 'Cause, Chris, I completely agree with you. I want my kid to have teachers who are certified, who are strong in those core subjects, but I am more fearful of that kid that has food insecurity or who's left home alone because we gave a parent no other choice.
Out of our 2,000 kiddos, our last survey was 970 responses, something like that. So it was over half. So
970 different households, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Was it 2 parents within a household?
They shouldn't, they shouldn't have voted that way. We don't know if they did or didn't.
That's a pretty good representation.
I would say, I would argue not. And if I took this forward to my city council, when I go forward, I have a 95% participation rate, because when I do a survey, if I don't hear from somebody, I'm calling them, I'm going to their house so that I can come forward and I can go, everybody who's represented, every demographic, that there is nothing, I can assure you there's nothing that I don't know about how this is going to play out, because I've heard every voice.
Did we have any type of community hall, or town hall, I know, that doesn't always work out very well. But, did we have to do any type of open forum?
Other than the survey.
Just a survey? I can't remember.
Well, if we delayed the vote on this motion for the 4 days, we would need to have a call meeting soon, thanks to these next week, and then when we're up to the date that she needs to have. The only information that I feel like that maybe we don't have, other than, from parents, and maybe we need to somehow get the word out that people need to speak up. I agree with Renee. We hear, there are some people that get up and speak, and they will say what they want to say. There's other people that maybe are not speaking up that need to, and you can't make them, but we can say, if you have a problem with this, we need to know it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said, but we have to make a decision,
Yes.
and we can only make a decision based on the information that we have.
Right.
You know, I'm not one to speculate about something. We've got half the people on the survey. I mean, not to take anything away from what you said, or I don't, like I said, I don't disagree, but, you know, you have to make a decision based on the information you have available to you at that time. So, I mean, sometimes you just gotta go with what you got.
Would y'all feel better about getting this little bit of additional information?
I would, and have all the board members together.
Like all the
See if
board,
we
that's
can-
my bigger thing, is I want all the board members.
We want it to be a unified decision, however we do it. Well, if we do that, I need to, do I need a motion to table? Okay.
It's not big action.
Then if you're in agreement, I will table this motion and to a called meeting to be set soon find out what a good time would be. And instruct Dr. Grandjean to get the information for the younger group. And I would like to know about special needs, things like that, how much it affects them also. Because they are another group that come in, if they're given a break of several days, it's hard for them to get back into the routine and stuff. I'd just like to know how it's going to affect. Jenny, maybe you can help us with that.
I don't have data that we, from what school districts are doing it other than
I think
opinions.
what you meant was that you can reach out to your contacts.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I
The-
thought you were asking about that.
Probably the colleagues at these same places, like I'll reach out to elementary principals and superintendent.
But as far as like talking to those people, I don't know that they, like Vandyar, for example, they just went this year to the 4-day. When I spoke with their director, she said, we love it, wouldn't go back. But that's just based on the adult opinion. There's not any data to look at
Right.
little kids and what they're doing. I mean, it's basically, you're just getting an opinion from people that are in the middle of it.
Right. And maybe it affects the special ed teachers as much as it does anybody. If the kids come back and they're kind of not able to settle down or whatever, maybe it affects the teachers more than even just the parents, but.
In the survey that I did, I contacted the entire listserv of all SPED directors in Texas that do 4-day weeks. And, from the director's perspectives, and I have those surveys, but again, it was just public opinion of how they felt like it was working. Was it the teachers or was it from the director's perspective? I don't know. I would have to see how I could contact said teachers directly or.
Well, and one thing too, I know because I have somebody in it, but the scheduling of all the testing and everything that you have to do, we put into a 4-day week to do all that testing. But we've got a lot of special ed kids. We just do. And so mainly, it's like Chris said, we need to make a decision on when to make that. Would that be the best time?
Either December 2nd or 3rd, because you're out. Or
So
What is that week after would be
And
the week.
Yeah.
the conference is 2 hours away, but if I gotta come back.
Unless y'all would be ready to have a meeting before Thanksgiving.
We'd have to have it Friday and post tomorrow.
Well, that's right. So it's either Friday or Monday.
Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday. Well, y'all think about it. Best day to do it. Okay, let's move on. And we will make a decision though. Where we're at. Okay, consider and take possible action to approve the district and campus goals and objectives for the campus and district improvement plans.
Annually, the board would approve district and campus performance objectives and ensure that our campus and district plans are mutually supportive to accomplish identified objectives and at a minimum support this and state the goals and objectives under Education Code Chapter 4. This is that time of year again. We've received all of the campus improvement plans, district improvement plan has the objectives and goals, and ask for your approval.
There's really not any change.
No, ma'am.
So there's not really any change. This is what we do every year, and they have not made any change to their goals and objectives or does anybody have any questions? Okay, can I have a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the district campus goals and objectives for the campus and district improvement plans as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Carrie and a second by Renee to approve the goals and objectives. Everybody, raise your right hand, please. If you- Thank you. All right, vote. Consider and take possible action to approve an addition to the 24-25 stipend schedule.
Currently, the board approves the stipend schedule at the beginning of every year. It's included in the budget. This time around, we would like to make an addition to our stipend schedule through resources and things that we have. It's difficult for us to just employ a safety and security coordinator for the district. So what we're asking is we create a stipend for that. And under the individual who's pretty much been acting in that capacity already will add to their roles and responsibilities. This addition to the stipend schedule is the adjustment that we're asking for the board to make.
So it's an $8,000 stipend. The position has been held by originally the assistant superintendent and then by you.
Right.
It's just as part of their duties. And mainly it's because it takes time after hours.
And a lot of coordinated effort after planning is usually where that takes place. Stipends don't have to be strictly focused on time outside of the normal day. It's additional duties based on the attorney. And I still have an active piece in this. It's just a lot of the plans and documentation that we have to submit to TEA. You just don't want the superintendent to sign off on it when it comes to that.
So will they be attending the meetings,
All of that.
on the regional meetings and
Going-
coordinating with?
Going to every one of the meetings, they will take over all the safety and security meetings. They're writing our plan,
They'll still be able to perform their
without a doubt.
functions.
The first year is going to be a whole lot of work. It's a lot of front loading, which we've probably taken care of a lot of the stuff that we would have to do over the next 3 years in the last by 3 months. When it comes to that district vulnerability assessment. Keeping up with the safety and security meetings at the Region Center. They're going to have to do that because updates with state law, regulations, all of that stuff. That stuff they'll do after. I'll have to do that over time.
Yeah.
Maybe not in school, but we'll do that during the school day. It's not uncommon for a district our size to take this approach so that we don't. If a person was doing this half-time and another job other half-time, I mean, it would be in the $40,000 range, I'm sure.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions about that?
Is this just for, will this be ongoing or just for this year?
And the reason we create it as a stipend is it can be put in a different position. It doesn't have to be the counselor at the elementary is now
So
the,
it can be assigned?
it can be moved around depending on where the superintendent wants that. Or feels that the person best suited, this way also you can find the person who's best suited and has the characteristics to fill this position no matter where they're at.
Any other questions? Motion then?
Move to approve addition of safety and security stipend for the 24-25 stipend schedule.
Second.
Sorry. Okay, I have a motion by Chris and a second by Renee to approve the additional stipend to the stipend schedule. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Passes 5-0. Consider and take possible action to consider superintendent's recommendation regarding the designation of 10 non-business days for consideration of public information request.
We do this annually based on House Bill 3033, passed during our last legislative session. It amends the Public Information Act by limiting the number of non-business days for school districts. This legislation greatly reduces the response times for PIA and the requested businesses. School districts create closed days. A lot of that has to do with December days, to where even though we're not in school, we can't say that it's a non-business day. So we have to reply back whenever we get a public information request. We can't be closed for longer than 10 days because then kind of gets into, like if somebody files a grievance, we have 10 days to schedule a response, kind of in those nature. That way, whenever a public information request is submitted, we can't say, oh, well, we're not in school from the 5th of December until the 1st of January. We will have to respond to that request.
So will we only have a certain number of allowable non-business days? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yeah, and if you look at them, you kind of see what they're for, holidays and stuff like that.
So the recommendation would be to set non-business public information act days as January 2nd, March 12th, March 13th, 14th, November 24th, 25th, and 26th, and December 22nd, 26th, and 31st. So that means anytime that those dates are in that envelope, it's going to
Extend the 10 days?
yes.
Extend the time. Okay.
Those will be non-business days. We will label those days.
Yep.
Similar to what we did last year.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I have a motion then?
I'll move that the district designate the following days as non-business days in accordance with the Texas Government Code Section 552.003(1)(f) for the 2025 calendar year, January 2nd, 2025, March 12th, 2025, March 13th, 2025, March 14th, 2025, November 24th, 2025, November 25th, 2025, November 26th, 2025, and December 22nd, 2025, and December 26th, 2025, as well as December 31st, 2025.
Second.
All right, I'll take that. Okay, I have a motion by Renee and a second by Ally to approve these dates. I'm not going to just restate them. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. That completes all our regular business. It's time for us to go into closed session. So the board, beginning at 7:42 p.m., will convene in closed session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act for the purpose of discussing items listed on the Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, 551.083. No final action, decisions, or votes will be taken on board as in executive session.